Hi, everyone. Good evening. Carl Steinbeck here, Friday night. Want to recap some of the key takeaways from the trial this week. We had there in Massachusetts the murder trial against Lindsay Clancy, mother of three, who is accused of murdering her three children, all within the matter of minutes. And this is a week that is another drawn out week of a lot of details. The prosecution, that, in my opinion, they're going way too much minutia detail, and they don't quite understand this defense of psychosis and the mixture of all this polypharma drugs that Lindsay Clancy was on. So is the state going to be able to prove that this was just cold-blooded murder, or is this going to be a situation where she can be found not guilty by reason of insanity or completely not guilty by involuntary intoxication? So I'm just concerned whether she's going to get a fair trial up there from the stuff I've seen this week, and I'm a little bit disappointed, to say the least, about it. Not as bad of a situation as it was for Karen Reed, though. This judge is not that bad as we saw for Karen Reed on some of his rulings here. So, all right, so let's just recap. If we go back to Monday, August 17th, day 15 of the trial, the prosecution did rest, and we had Ian Whiffen. You might remember that guy from the Karen Reed trial. He's with Cellbright. He was the final prosecution witness, and he was walking jurors through the Apple Health phone data, and including symptoms found on Clancy's phone. And so I just where so she was on the phone moving around while the husband was at CVS and picking up some food. So I don't see the value of that. Like I say, it's part of this ongoing thing where they're going into extreme deep minutia details. She's already admitted that she's committed the crime. It's just a matter of what was her mental state. So then we heard from Margaret Hamp, the labor and delivery nurse at Mass General, former co-worker of Lindsay, and she described Clancy's dedication as a nurse. We also heard from Clancy's sister, Allison, who testified she struggled with mental health back in December of 2022 and described a gut feeling that something was wrong. And boy, was that gut feeling right. We heard from Paula Musgrove, excuse me, Clancy's mother, and she testified about Lindsay's mental state, fear of being left alone, and disclosure about a month before the killings that she had thoughts of harming the children. And you know what kind of thoughts of harming children? That has to be considered something extreme, and nobody took this serious enough, obviously. Then we heard from Dr. Michael Volfovich. He's an ER physician from Newton Wesley Hospital. He reviewed but did not treat Lindsay at her South Shore Hospital. He just looked over the records and testified that her injuries were consistent with self-injurious harm behavior from her suicide attempt. So I know, and there were some objections from the prosecution, even just saying they were consistent with that. So they were able to get that out. But the prosecution is again objecting to just a fair defense for Lindsay coming out. Then on Tuesday, we heard on August 18th, day 16. In the first part of it, we heard from Dr. Paul Zeisel. He's a forensic psychologist, and he talks about how he met Clancy over 60 times over 3 years, roughly 35 hours total. Testified that he facilitated a phone call. Hold on a second. Between Lindsay and her then husband early on, during which she said a male voice ordered her to kill her children and then herself. So I'm going to go listen to some of that cross-examination here. I think this is the one here. Yep.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
So yesterday, when you first took the stand, Attorney Reddington asked you a little bit about your background. Recall that?
Yes.
And you, in this field of being a psychologist and a forensic psychologist, you circulate a curriculum vitae where all that is outlined, right?
Yes.
And fair to say, you testified yesterday, and on your curriculum vitae, you speak briefly about the fact that you have previously testified for the Commonwealth, you said, as well as for the defense, correct?
Yes.
You referred to defendants and respondents, right?
Yes.
And so one of the things that you've done in the past is to be what's called a qualified examiner, right?
Yes.
You are currently not actively doing those examinations, are you?
I actually have done one, but I don't actively do that anymore.
Okay. And so in those respects, is that when you say you testify for the Commonwealth, is that primarily the work that you would do where you say you testify for the Commonwealth?
Yes.
And in those evaluations that you do, is it fair to say that you're actually an independent contractor with a company that contracts with the Department of Correction on those cases?
Those are what qualified examiners are. That's correct. That's how you become a qualified examiner through the DOC.
Right. And you're an examiner, a qualified examiner, is retained or takes work in doing evaluations in order to perform independent assessments, are they not?
Yes.
So they're not hired by the Commonwealth.
Yes, they are. What are you talking about? The state does not have the independent status to evaluate these people. And then when they find out that, as we'll see, he's got information favorable to keeping folks under further confinement civilly, is what I understood it to be, like for sexual predators, if they have a high recidivism rate, then he would testify on behalf of the state. So he's testifying and he's doing this to evaluate them for the state, for the public's benefit. And she's trying to twist this around and make it look like, no, you're an independent person that you're not testifying for the state. You work for somebody else. Yes, but the contract is for the state's benefit. The state is contracting. So just like the federal government hires all kinds of folks, civilians, for every kind of agency you can imagine, from the IRS to Department of Defense to every single agency has thousands and thousands of contractors. That's what this guy's doing. He's just filling some shoes that the state doesn't have the resources to fill.
They are, because the company that retains the qualified examiners is hired by the Commonwealth, and these forensic psychologists are then appointed cases to do these types of examinations. So it's under the big umbrella of the Commonwealth.
So yeah, big umbrella Commonwealth, meaning Department of Correction, an agency that is under the seal of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. But as far as when we talk about Commonwealth, like Commonwealth versus Lindsay Clancy, that's the prosecution. In those proceedings, the Department of Correction sometimes is the moving party, right?
Yes.
And sometimes it's the district attorney's office who's the moving party.
Yes.
But it's never the defendant who's the moving party.
Never.
And in those types of proceedings, sometimes if you opine a person is what they call sexually dangerous, you would testify for the Commonwealth, right?
Yes.
And if they're not, or if you find that they're not sexually dangerous, you'd testify for the respondent.
Yes, we're neutral.
Yeah, so he's totally neutral, and the state trusts him to make the right call. So he's not just always favoring the state, not always favoring the prosecution, or always favoring the defense, always call for it. He's a guy that calls it straight like it is. And if he wasn't, guess what? The state would, if they didn't trust him, they wouldn't use him. So he's really awesome to have. And he's really even more neutral than a normal witness, I would submit.
So you're not testifying for the Commonwealth. As in the prosecution.
He could be, if he says the guy's dangerous and needs to be housed further, he's a danger to children in the state, then of course they're going to call him as a state witness.
You're testifying under the big umbrella of the Commonwealth.
I think it's a matter of semantics, because if you do an evaluation and you render an opinion that this patient is sexually dangerous, when you testify, you are working with the district attorney's office and you review your case with the DA. And the way I see it is that you're testifying for the Commonwealth as an independent examiner, but on that day, you're testifying for the Commonwealth or that DA's office.
And you haven't done that work in closely a decade, fair to say.
Roughly a decade. She's just coming across really, I'm trying to be nice here, but she's not coming across well. She's coming across condescending to this super expert gentleman that's very professional. He's acting like a professional. And when you got a witness coming across more professional than the prosecution, that just is something that's really troubling.
No, that's not true.
Well, pre-pandemic, correct?
That's not true.
So when was the last time you testified for the Commonwealth, meaning the prosecution, in an SDP proceeding?
So I was assigned a case through Suffolk County. The
SDP, what does that mean, prosecutor? You should be asking questions for the jury that they understand what exactly these acronyms are. Is it sexually dangerous predator or something like that? We don't know. But she's trying to trip him up. But this guy, he's doing awesome because he's totally a consummate, knowledgeable expert in his field.
Dangerousness Unit by ADA, Kelly Ryan, Kelly. And I did that evaluation on July 2nd, 2026.
And have you testified at a probable cause hearing for that?
No, I wrote a report which was in lieu of testifying.
Where you opined that somebody was sexually dangerous?
Yes.
Okay. Fair to say, though, the majority of your work here in Massachusetts over the last few years is contracted with the Committee for Public Counsel Services, correct?
Yes.
And for the fiscal year of 2024, you were paid by CPCS in the open checkbook for approximately $340,000 worth of time and work.
That's about right. We get paid a fixed rate. It's a government rate that's assigned to all examiners.
And
good answer. So here he is being paid that, and he's doing jobs for the state, and now she's trying to use that against him. It's just very, very underhanded.
For the fiscal year of 2025, it was approximately $300,000 that you were paid through the Committee of Public Counsel Services.
That sounds about right.
Who's you? Is it you, him personally? Is it the company he works for? That's what the contract was amount for each psychologist. She's not being clear.
You also indicated yesterday that you have known Attorney Reddington for a number of years, correct?
Yes.
Fair to say you've done quite a bit of work with him over the years?
That's an expansive term, but
it
I
just
work with
requires
him.
a yes or a no.
Yes.
And you've also testified that you have your doctorate in clinical psychology, right?
Yes.
And you testified yesterday, or you told us a lot about your military experience. But as you sit here today, you are not a prescriber of medications here in the Commonwealth, are you?
I am not. And I was not yesterday either when I was asked about that.
Right. You told us all about your experience in the military and having that limited ability to
Okay, listen, she said experience in the military.
Prescribed years ago. But as far as you sit here today and in your evaluations that you do today, you don't do forensic psychiatry evaluations, do you?
That's correct. But I just want to clarify for a point of accuracy. I was not in the military. I worked for the Department of State.
I believe I said your work with the military, but thank you.
She comes across so condescending. It's just, condescending. That's what you said here too. Juries do just not like this. They don't like this kind of behavior. So.
Here in Massachusetts, you conduct primarily forensic you conduct evaluations in forensic psychology, correct?
Yes, for the most part.
And you are aware that there are particular standards for forensic psychologists working within the criminal justice system, right?
Yes, but just to be a little more clear, forensic psychologists such as myself also work for police departments doing evaluations for fitness for duty. So although they're law enforcement, they're not engaged or accused of any criminal activity.
Well, I'm referring to your role when you come into the court and you testify as you are today as a forensic psychologist. That's what I'm referring to. You're aware that there are particular standards in place by the ABA criminal justice, mental health standards is one of them, right? You're familiar with that?
Yes.
And you're familiar with the American Psychological Association specialty guidelines for forensic psychology?
Yes.
And fair to say that with those standards, they're not required, but people are encouraged to follow them, right?
I think that's fair to say.
And the criminal justice, the ABA criminal justice mental health standards actually identify the different types of roles that forensic evaluators have in the criminal justice system, including evaluating, consulting, and treating, right?
Yes.
And so fair to say standard 7-1.3 indicates that for evaluative experts, the obligation is to make a thorough and impartial assessment based on sound evaluative methods to reach an objective opinion. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
And so, again, in the American Psychological Association specialty guidelines, section 1.02 indicates that forensic practitioners strive to be unbiased and impartial and avoid partisan presentations of unrepresentative, incomplete, or inaccurate evidence. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Is that a standard you strive to follow?
Yes.
Okay. In this case, you indicated that you've been with the case since February 4th of the year 2023, correct?
Yes, 41 months.
And you've authored a report, you said, in June, I believe, of 2026, correct?
Yes.
But you've also offered other reports or updates of the defendant's condition over the years. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
And you provided a report, an update, I should say, in July of 2025.
Yes.
Do you recall that? And in that report, you identify that as of July 23rd, 2025, that the defendant was residing at Tewksbury Hospital. Do you recall that? Putting
Yes.
that in?
Yes.
And that there was a planned transfer to Worcester Recovery Hospital or Worcester Recovery Center and Hospital. Do you recall writing that?
I don't know if it was a plan. It was a hope and a goal, but it was not an official plan.
Well, I can provide you with your report if you'd like to review, but it reads, currently, Ms. Clancy resides at Tewksbury Hospital with a planned transfer to Worcester Recovery Center and Hospital.
That sounds right. Yes.
Okay. And that she is presently medication stabilized and is in the process of discontinuing most, if not all, psychotropic medications, demonstrating an emerging capacity to stabilize without them. Do you recall writing that?
Yes.
So in July of 2025, it was your opinion that she was stable and she would be, hopefully, as you say, transferred to a different facility, correct?
Yes.
And you're aware that currently she's still at Tewksbury Hospital.
Yes.
And currently she's still taking psychotropic medications.
That's true. Yes.
I think you also write in that report.
So what's your point there, that he was wrong on what's going to happen to her in the future? They didn't follow his recommendation, or she's so bad she couldn't get transferred still and she's on these meds still? So what? Not sure where she's going with this. Seems like it, again, might be helping the defense.
We'll strike that. Going back to your most recent evaluation in June of 2026. You would agree with me that in an evaluation for criminal responsibility, being a forensic psychologist, it's really important to be as accurate as possible in your reports, correct?
Yes.
You want to make sure you get the facts right?
Yes.
Because your evaluation is not just based on what you learn from the individual you're evaluating, but also an independent review, an unbiased review of the records of the facts. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay. So in your report, you indicate that the period of evaluation that you had with this individual is approximately 45 hours. Do you recall writing that and testifying about that yesterday?
I think I actually said I've met with her a total of 45 hours, but the evaluation was more than 35 hours, and I think it was 37 hours.
Okay. And you also said yesterday that in addition to that, you've met with her several other times for a total of approximately 60 times.
What do you got to rehash this? How many hours you met with her? It's like the jury has to hear it a second time. Is there really some like great point you just made here? No.
At least.
Not 60 additional times, but in total, yes, since the court trial has started a few weeks back.
Okay. Is that typical for you to spend 35 hours with a person that you're evaluating?
It does happen, but it's not typical.
You also indicated yesterday that one of how you became involved in this case is Attorney Reddington called you and asked you to go check on I think you said mental well-being. Is that what your
Mental
testimony
health and mental well-being at the time of her admittance to Brigham and Women's Hospital, which was roughly late January 2023.
And your first time there was February 4th, correct?
Yes.
Were you examining her as a potential patient at that point?
I was examining her as a colleague and friend of Attorney Reddington to see how she was faring. There was no predetermined notion whether I would be interested or willing or even offered the opportunity to take the case. I was just going to meet with her, given the fact that she was in a bed in ICU, locked to the bed frame, and no one was able to visit her.
In other words, he had some humanity to go try to help this attorney out who didn't know exactly how to deal with this situation. How many defense attorneys ever had this situation happen? I don't know of anybody.
So you went in to visit her.
Yes.
And when you went in to visit her, you indicated that she had recently been extubated in your testimony yesterday. You're aware from the review of the records that she was extubated on January 28th.
Yes. So the difference between January 28th and February 4th, I didn't know the date at that time, but I knew she was able to breathe on her own and express
And you're aware-
verbal language. Yes, expressive language.
You're aware that she had been communicating with staff at the hospital, including psychiatrists, right?
I don't know if I knew at that time, but I knew she had been speaking with the doctors and staff,
Well,
but not specifically who it was.
A person who goes through major trauma and is at a hospital and has made suicidal attempts, in your opinion, it would behoove the hospital to have that person talk to a psychiatrist, correct?
Yes. Overall.
Yes.
Now, in addition to meeting with the staff and the psychiatry team, prior to your arrival, were you aware that she had an attorney that had came to visit her a few times? Not Mr. Reddington, but a different attorney.
Yes, I don't know how many times, but I am aware that there was an attorney, Gelb, who was somehow involved in the case.
Okay, so there was somebody that came in to see her prior to you coming in to see her.
Yes.
Now, you testified yesterday that you performed a mental status exam that day on February 4th. Do you recall that?
I do.
Where in your report or the previous report from July or your June report do you outline the results of your mental status exam?
There is none, because if someone's not capable of just explaining who they are, where they are, and if they're clear of mentation and thinking, then I'll meet with them. But if they're not, I won't. So it's a sine qua non. You do that just to make sure you can keep meeting with them and that they are able to understand what you're talking about. Standard practice.
But you indicated yesterday that she did know who she was, right?
Yes.
She didn't know where she was.
Yes.
But I believe your testimony was that she did remember what happened, but she was foggy as to what happened.
Yes, that's correct.
And she actually, according to your testimony yesterday, asked you for your phone or to access your phone to make a phone call. Is that correct?
Yes.
So she was able to communicate with you.
Yes.
She asked you for something and you clearly understood what she was asking for.
Yes.
And you indicated that she asked to call her husband, right?
Yes.
Had you spoken with her husband before that time?
I did not speak with him at that time. I didn't know him, and I had not spoken to him prior to that time.
So how'd you get the phone number to call him?
I did not have the phone number to call.
So she provided you with a phone number to dial so that she could call him on speakerphone, right?
Yes.
And she remembered the number?
Yes.
And so you indicated on that day, on February 4th, that she left a voicemail, right?
Yes.
So in that voicemail message, were you able to identify that it was Patrick Clancy's phone? Did it say, hey, this is Pat, leave a message or something to that effect?
I don't remember the salutation from the voice recording, but there was no evidence that it was not Patrick Clancy.
And as far as her confidence in the number, she gave it to you with no issue, did she not?
That's correct.
She didn't have her own cell phone to refer to, did she?
That's correct.
Or a pad of paper where all the numbers were written down?
She didn't.
You indicated that she left a message. Do you recall what the message was?
She expressed a love for him, want to know how he was doing, and that was pretty much it.
And again, you said that you didn't write down what the mental status exam was, but the fact that she was able to relay that message, was it clear and coherent what she was saying?
Yes, mental status exams are multiple levels. Different things are asked. If you don't know where you are, it doesn't mean you can't have a conversation with someone.
And she was able to have a conversation with you that day.
Yes.
Now, you said you went back on February 6th and met with her again, correct?
Yes.
And you guys made another attempt at calling Patrick.
Yes.
Again, did you remember the number?
No.
Did you have it stored in your phone?
No.
Did she provide you his phone number to call?
Well, it was in my phone. I could just look it up in my phone. I didn't write it down. I didn't enter his name. Either she gave it to me again or I just looked it up from 2 days prior.
But you don't recall, as you sit here today, which it was, do you?
No.
And you didn't write a report about that interaction, did you?
I did not.
So in the second phone call, you were able to actually hear that she was talking with Patrick on the other end, right?
Yes.
And at that time, when you were now second time meeting with her and having this phone call, were you aware that she had already changed her healthcare proxy from Patrick to her parents?
I did not know that.
Did you talk to Patrick in between the 4th and the 6th to find out if he had tried to come in to visit her?
I didn't speak to him at all, so I knew nothing about what his plans or intentions were.
Your testimony yesterday was that she had called him to tell him that she loved him and to see where they were at, right?
Yes.
That was your testimony? Meaning what, their relationship?
That I made no interpretation of what that meant. She left the message and we left.
I think this prosecutor thinks she's scoring points, but I think she's just spinning her wheels. I think she's just further turning off the jury. So I think the jury gets this for what this guy is. He's worked with the military. He wasn't in the military, but supported things going on overseas in the GWAT, Global War on Terror, for soldiers in Afghanistan. I won't get into those details, but this guy's a really awesome guy that's a straight shooter. And because she's not happy about his testimony, she's doing everything she can to try to twist his testimony around and try to make him look bad. And like he's just trying to find something he can throw at him to make the jury dislike him. But you know what? No matter what she throws at him, the guy's still coming across as very likable and trustworthy.
At that.
But in that subsequent conversation that you were a witness to where they were speaking on the phone and she told them about these voices or explained about the voices, did she ask about the kids?
She did not, as I recall.
Now, in all of the times over the course of the last few years that you've met with Miss Clancy, how many times has she told you since the incident that she's heard a voice currently?
She has not heard voices since the event took place in 2023.
And you've now testified that over the course of a period of time that she did hear voices, right?
Yes.
And is that based on one of these 35 hours worth of conversations you had with her? How do you know that?
Well, they were collateral contacts. I spoke to other people who I asked the nature of their interactions with Ms. Clancy, and it was not a fishing expedition. I asked them if they can tell me what happened.
Well, I'm asking
but they
you.
disclosed, pardon me.
You have to let them finish.
So they disclosed information to me that Ms. Clancy shared that information with them.
So who did she tell that she had a voice that told her to kill herself?
She spoke to a chaplain named Sheila Kavanaugh, who I spoke with, and Chaplain Kavanaugh told me that Ms. Clancy told her that she heard a male voice instructing her to first kill her children and then to kill herself.
So the same message that she delivered to Patrick that day on the phone, you heard from a chaplain at Brigham and Women's Hospital after the incident occurred in January of 2023?
Yes.
And so from all of the records that you reviewed of her treatment and all of the interviews with her family, who did she tell that she heard voices telling her to kill herself?
I believe she told family members.
Which family members?
I believe she may have said that to her mother. She, I believe, told her husband that she felt like killing herself as well.
In the records with the providers, you're aware, you've reviewed them all and you've sat through all of their testimony. You're aware that when she described intrusive thoughts, she never referred to them as a voice telling her to kill herself, did they? Did she?
No, she was referring to...
It's just a yes or no?
No.
So as far as her reports of these intrusive thoughts that appear over and over in the notes, you would agree that it was simply, when asked about what they were, it was simply that she felt like she wanted to die, right?
Yes, and...
It's just a yes or no?
Yes.
It's not the full extent of it. That was part of it. So she's trying to box them in and put a spin on things, it looks like.
Now, in your report, you go through what's called the sources of information. You're familiar with that part? It's pretty standard in a forensic report, right?
Yes.
Where you list all of the things that you've gone through and reviewed in compiling the information for your report.
So in my sources of information, I reviewed the following, but that list is not limited to the following. So there might be other pieces of information that I may have reviewed, but didn't put in the list.
Okay, so not on the list are the Tewksbury Hospital records that you said you reviewed recently, correct?
Yes, the 7,000 pages of those hospital notes. I didn't review all of them at the time of the report.
Did you review records from the Spalding Rehab Facility?
Yes.
That's not contained, though, in your list, in your report, is it?
I don't think it is.
And you don't cite to any of the Spalding rehab records in your report coming to your ultimate conclusions, do you?
I do not.
And how about the women and infant records? Did you list that in your sources of information section?
I do not. She was there for 1 day.
Okay, but you've testified about that, right?
Yes.
Did you review them at all?
Yes.
And as far as the McLean records, you don't list the McLean records as a source of information in your report, do you?
I did not, but I did review them.
Now, you've described, and you describe in your report, that you believe that Ms. Clancy was hypomanic, right?
Yes.
And I believe you testified to some extent, and you've written in your report that you identify her as euphoric, excessively energetic for 3 months postpartum. Do you remember writing that in your report?
Yes.
That you note that she exercised early, right?
Yes.
But you're aware that she exercised pretty frequently before birth
Yes.
and while pregnant with Callan.
And while post-pregnancy with her children as well. Yes.
So it was part of her routine, fair to say, right?
It's part of everyday living. Things sometimes change when you have a baby, and a few weeks later, if you're still doing the same exercise, it's sometimes a reflection of something other than committed to fitness.
And you identify what you refer to as a marketing scam, being that Beachbody business, right?
Yes.
But you're aware that that's a series of workouts and a line of nutritional shakes and exercise plans that millions of people engage in across the country.
Yes.
So it's not a scam. It's just a way of
That's
a lifestyle choice.
If you do something for marketing and you lose all your money and there's no effort to get that back, it's a scam.
Yeah. You've asked them, you can kind of figure out what his definition is. So,
Did she tell you she lost money with the Beachbody?
Yes.
When was that?
It was summer of 2022 after her third child was born.
No, when did she tell you that
When
she
did
lost money?
I don't recall that.
And is it in your report?
It may be, but I'm not sure.
Well, I have it with me, or do you have it up there? Can you look and point to me where she told you, at what point she told you she lost money in this endeavor?
I don't know where it is. If it's here, it didn't seem relevant whether she lost money in a scam after her child was born
Well,
in terms of the big picture of what we're here for today.
you described it as a scam because you said she lost money. So wouldn't it be important to know if she actually lost money?
I don't really think so.
Okay. You also identify the 5-mile race that she completed. Was it a 5-mile race or a 5K race?
Well,
Does it really matter? I mean, this is what you're doing as a prosecutor, grasping at straws as to how strong of an athlete she was, whether it's 5K or 5 miles. Who cares?
I wasn't sure which it was. I was told initially it was a 5-mile race. After my report was submitted, it may have been, with reflection, a 5K race.
And you've sat in the courtroom each and every day of this trial, so you've heard all the testimony about the evidence, right?
Actually, I've not been here every day, but I've been here most days. Yes.
You're also aware that prior to the kids being born, that she considered herself a runner,
Yes.
right? She had a treadmill at her house. She went to the gym and used the treadmill. She ran other races.
Yes.
Now, in your report, you indicate that part of the timeline of her medication and her decline is the September time period where she was prescribed the Zoloft, right?
Yes.
And you indicate that she had reported, and it's reflected in the records, that she increased the Zoloft, and that's when she couldn't sleep for 48 hours straight, right?
Yes.
And you're aware of what the instructions were, having reviewed everything in this case, what the pill bottle said as far as the plan for the Zoloft?
I'm not sure specifically the incremental plan to go from 25 milligrams to 50 milligrams of Zoloft.
Well, I have the bottle, exhibit number 2, sertraline, not Zoloft, right? Brand name Zoloft.
Yes.
Says take 1 oral tablet once a day for 1 week, then increase to 2 tablets daily thereafter.
Right.
Right on the label.
Right. That's 25 milligrams to 50 milligrams.
And again, having been at the majority of this trial, you aware that there were 30 in that prescription and 23 left in the bottle when they were inventoried.
Yes.
And those are pills that were in Patrick Clancy's possession at the time of these events in January. You're aware, right?
Yes, I believe they were in the middle console on the lower part of his truck, the lower part of the middle console in his truck.
So if there's only 7 pills missing from a prescription that requires the person to take a particular dosage for 1 week or 7 days, how did she double the dose?
Well, sometimes when you are given medication, you may have medication of the same exact dosage and the same exact medication another time, and you therefore may have pills that you didn't take the previous month or the month before that, and sometimes people just finish what they've had before and before they go on to the most current dose. So I am aware of what you're referring to, but I don't know if there are other bottles there that she may have had medication still in those pill bottles.
Well, I'm looking at exhibit number 1, a record from CVS Pharmacy, which all of these bottles are from. And the only time a prescription for sertraline is filled is on September 15th, 2022 for 30 pills. You aware of that?
Yes.
So there's no prior prescription for sertraline, is there?
I don't think so.
Now, in your report, you also refer to 1129, and your report on page 8, paragraph 2 says on 1129, Paula Gelada. Is that supposed to be Rebecca Gelada?
Yes.
Okay. So it also says that she prescribed Seroquel to treat Ms. Clancy's anxiety, depressed and unstable mood, and psychotic symptoms of disassociation and derealization. Where is that in Rebecca Gelada's record that that's why she prescribed Seroquel?
I'm not sure.
And in fact, you were present when Ms. Gelada testified and said that she prescribed it at 25 milligrams for insomnia, not for anxiety, depression, unstable mood, or psychotic symptoms. Did she not?
It's used off-label. It's sometimes medications are made for many things. Sometimes they're used off-label, not for what they're prescribed for. So that's a medication that is used for sleeping, although it's an antipsychotic.
But you're aware from reviewing the records and hearing testimony that that initial prescription was for a 25 milligram dose, correct?
Yes.
I know you're not a prescriber, but you're aware that a dose for treatment of bipolar is significantly higher than 25 milligrams.
Yes.
Yeah, she knows so much about these drugs. Has she ever been on them? Yes, one thing like Dr. Yosef that I've had on here, what was it, about 2 weeks ago? He actually tried some of these drugs himself to see what they did to you and what they make you feel. And one of the things is they numb your feelings, they blunt your feelings. So your normal thought processes are completely twisted around.
Now, you've described in your testimony in this court repeated auditory hallucinations about wanting to kill herself or that she should kill herself and that she is damaged or her brain is damaged, right?
That's correct.
Now, did you have a conversation with her in one of these 35 hours about that particular voice or thought or belief?
So when I meet with Ms. Clancy, it's not as if I have one conversation on one of the 35 hours. To have thoroughness and exactitude, one does what we call intra-rater reliability. In other words, over the period of time, to confirm what someone says to you to help endorse the veracity or accuracy of that, you'll ask that question in a multitude of different ways. So I don't just ask once, did you hear a voice on that day? I ask in different ways over time, and her answers pretty much remain the same.
So when you quote in your report, when questioned about the nature and content of these horrible...
Yeah, see there, she clears her throat, doesn't say, excuse me. I saw somebody who didn't like that. Yeah, you should say, excuse me, pardon me. But apparently she's never done that here in this trial.
Thoughts. Ms. Clancy stated, quote, like a really bad and intrusive thought that I didn't feel like it was mine, telling me I should kill myself. Your brain is damaged. You're never going to get better. End quote. Where does the quote come from?
Where does the quote come from?
Right.
She had said that to me.
To you at some point.
Yes.
Okay. And this is well after the incident occurred, correct?
Yes.
And you reviewed...
No, she said it during the incident. She talked to him on speakerphone while she's doing... I mean, come on, really?
all the records to know that she did not endorse...
It's just so difficult to listen to, and she reminds me of... she's coming across like a bully, and the bully scene, I'm going to actually show this. I didn't think I was going to show this, but hold on a second here. This scene from a movie, and someone's being a mean bully, and this is what I thought was sort of a analogy here. Let's see. Check this out.
Fresh meat. Amanda Thripp.
Yes, Miss Trunchbull.
Is Miss Trunchbull.
What are those?
What's what, Miss Trunchbull?
Hanging down by your ears.
You mean my pigtails?
Are you a pig, Amanda?
No, Miss Trunchbull.
Do I allow pigs in my school?
My mommy thinks they're sweet.
Your mommy is a twit. You'll chop those off before school tomorrow, or I will come around. But!
But!
Did you say but? Erythro. What? Definitely. I'll give you but.
Good loss! Excellent release!
I just have troubles stomaching this stuff when I see this kind of attitude, and then I see all these objections. And let's go here. I think I'm going to stop there. It's hard to see this line of questioning. So I think the jury gets it. The jury's understanding that this Dr. Paul Zeisel is a straight shooter. Okay, he has some friendship with the defense attorney, but you know what? The defense attorney is coming across as a reasonable person. As a trial attorney, you have to come across as reasonable and trustworthy, and they're not coming across as either of those two things. And I see a lot of comments indicating that same thing as well. So let's go cover some more here. So going back to who else we heard. Or didn't hear from, I should say, there was a hearing without the jury on whether Emily Thorndike, a former McLean Hospital employee who posted TikTok videos, was critical of the hospital's staffing claims and could testify that, the hospital wasn't correct in their staffing over New Year's from the time she'd worked there. But Judge Sullivan did not allow that. He denied it, and finding her testimony had limited materiality since she hadn't worked there in about a year before Lindsay Clancy's admission. However, if that's their SOP, is it really going to change from year to year if that's what she's witnessed there at the hospital? So why would they suddenly be different at the time that Clancy's in there? So it's impeachment type testimony. And I'm telling you, it's just really frustrating and troubling to see judges limit this kind of helpful testimony for the defense. And if it's limited materiality, why doesn't that go to the weight that the jury can give it? Don't keep it out. Don't make it inadmissible just because you're thinking, well, it's limited materiality. It's some material relevance to what the defense is trying to do. So it's like they got their hands tied behind their back, right? We've seen that before in Massachusetts. So Dr. Clancy, Dr. Zeisel testified that Lindsay experienced delusions and hallucinations, believed she was having brain damage, and that others could hear her thoughts, and she could not appreciate the wrongfulness of her acts or conform to the law due to a psychotic break. He said the last time she reported hearing a voice was the day of the killings, and she was not hearing voices since. And then they're trying to make it sound like, oh, because none of them happened since. Oh, well, see, then it probably never happened at that time either. So the prosecution's trying to claim this guy's biased, and so what? There's no reports of hearing voices sooner. That does not negate it. She could easily say, "Oh yeah, I'm still feeling that." I think it lends credibility to the fact that it really was real. Otherwise, why wouldn't she still say, "I'm still hearing voices. I need to kill. I need to kill." She's not doing that, so I think that makes her sound even more credible. And let's see. On Thursday, Sheila Kavanaugh, chaplain at Brigham and Women's Hospital, testified that Lindsay alluded to hearing a voice warning that she didn't follow its commands, neither she or her children would live. And she remembered how Lindsay was saying, "I'm so glad the children are safe after being extubated." And then on cross, the prosecutor saying, "Well, you never noted that in your notes." So again, you got somebody lying. A chaplain at the hospital is a liar. Really? Let's go to this Dr. Philip Resnick. He was the final defense witness. There was a TikTok witness that they couldn't testify, and they wound up getting this guy. He's one of the most famous psychiatrists. He's not a psychologist. Psychologists do a lot of the testing, but psychiatrists are the ones that give prescriptions, and they are usually MDs or DOs. So let me go cover some of his testimony here. But he's treated or examined folks like Jeffrey Dahmer, the Unabomber, Ted Kaczynski, who's now in the Supermax prison in Florence, Colorado. He also was involved in the Andrea Yates case. So he's done some really serious cases. Let's go look at the cross here, if you can bear with me. Let's look at the cross here of this doctor. This is the correct. Sharon at standby. Sorry about that. Let's go here.
Depressed. So that, in addition to that, she had some earlier evidence of what's called a mild mania, and that fits together in what's called bipolar 2. So in other words, it's a type of bipolar illness where there is more frank depression, severe depression, but the manic aspects are not as severe. So my final diagnosis of her was called bipolar 2 with a severe depression on January 24, 2023. And from reading the reports of all of the experts that will be testifying, no one failed to diagnose a major mental disease on the day of the crime.
Now, doctor, in the course of that diagnosis, have you considered the concept of postpartum depression and or postpartum psychosis?
Yes.
And can you tell the jurors how that...
First of all,
I'm sorry. Can you tell the jurors how that factors into your diagnosis and opinion?
All right, I didn't go forward enough, but let's listen a few minutes of this here.
yes, Ms. Clancy had a history of anxiety and difficulty with each of her children. It was minor with her first child, more significant with her second child, and on the occasion of Callan's birth, things went well for the first 3 months, but then Ms. Clancy became very anxious and depressed, and it took quite a toll on her. And I believe the jury has heard from various treaters, such as Dr. Tufts and Nurse Delata and others, and her own anguish about how depressed she was, where she actually felt she couldn't function, her brain was damaged, she would never be the same. So she definitely met the definition of a major depression as well as this bipolar phenomenon. Now, with respect to the postpartum aspect, since Ms. Clancy's symptoms began within 3 months of Callan's birth, that would be considered a postpartum onset. Then, of course, she had considerable difficulty over the next 5 months, and at the time of the crime itself, on January 24, 2023, Ms. Clancy was frankly psychotic. So in that sense, she had a postpartum psychosis.
All right, so let's go ahead here.
In your course description, you state information beyond the question should not be volunteered because it will open up new areas for questioning, provide ammunition for attacks, eliminate the opportunity for surprise, and information fails to get to the jury, correct?
That's correct.
So you teach other psychologists how to hold back information in the discovery process to surprise the other side.
No, that's not it. And I'm not excited.
Now, a woman who kills her child can have more than one motive, correct?
Yes.
And actually, the most common motive for women who kill their children is fatal maltreatment or child abuse, correct?
That's correct.
And in fact, most women who kill their kids don't do it due to mental illness, correct?
That's correct.
And in fact, there's a quote from you in an article, Child Murdered by Mothers, Patterns and Prevention, where you say, quote, more filicides occur due to fatal maltreatment than because of maternal psychiatric illness, correct?
Correct.
So that makes him even more credible in this case. If this is really rare for this kind of situation to happen, and he's willing to testify in defense of Lindsay.
Also have written about parents having significant emotional devastation after killing their children, correct?
Yes.
And in fact, you've written in, it's a chapter 6 of family murder, child murder by parents, in the aftermath section, you've written, quote, "These life events are likely to prolong the parent's depression. The anniversary of the children's deaths and exposure to things that remind the parent of it are likely to be upsetting," correct?
Yes.
Things like birthdays and holidays and the anniversary of the killings would all be something that would be upsetting, correct?
They sometimes are, yes.
Now, you've written a lot about malingered psychosis, correct?
Yes.
And malingering psychosis,
So he's even talking about malingering psychosis in his authorship. So that even gives him more credibility. And she's going to attack that, huh?
you can have a mental illness and your malingering could be exaggerating those symptoms or saying you have psychosis symptoms when you don't, correct?
That's correct.
And one of the things that you have written, and there's an article that you wrote called Faking It, you've written in here, quote, "Command auditory hallucinations are easy to fabricate. Persons experiencing genuine command hallucinations do not always obey the voices, especially if doing so would be dangerous," correct?
That's correct.
You've also given some points to other practitioners. If you, quote, "If you suspect a person of malingered auditory hallucination, ask what he or she does to make the voices go away or diminish in intensity," correct?
Yes.
Because typically someone who hears a voice telling them to do something horrible like kill their child will try to resist that voice initially, correct?
That there's variability. Some do and some don't.
And in fact, the case you mentioned earlier, Andrea Yates, Miss Yates, in fact, committed herself to a hospital 5 times and tried to kill herself twice, all while trying to not kill her children, correct?
Yes.
She had heard voices for months and telling her to kill her children. And to resist those voices, she actually tried to kill herself, correct?
Until she could no longer resist the voices, yes.
Right. But she tried.
So in other words, if you're not exactly like Andrea Yates, and then you know what? You're just making this whole thing up and never happened, right? So really you're going to compare it exactly like it happened to Andrea Yates when we know that meds treat people differently. They all have different reactions.
Right, as did Ms. Clancy.
Well, according to the records and reports that we have that are in evidence, Ms. Clancy heard the voice and immediately acted, correct? According to those records?
Well,
Is that correct?
Well, Ms. Clancy had impulses to harm her children, which she did resist until the command hallucination when she was overwhelmed, yes.
But according to the records and the testimony that we've had, she had an impulse in December one time to harm her children, correct?
I believe it was on 2 occasions that she mentioned it to her husband.
So now we're going to retry the Yates case, and you're going to try to harmonize and contrast every little detail of that case with this case. This is like...
And then never again after that until her kids were killed, correct?
Just bring up all the facts, bring up all the details of that, because it's so relevant to what happened here, right?
There were only 2 occasions she mentioned it, but she referred to having these horrible impulses. So that suggests to me she was dealing with it on an ongoing basis, although she mentioned it only twice to her husband.
But she never said she had thoughts to kill her children. She said she had thoughts to harm her children, correct?
And maybe she's trying to minimize how intrusive the thoughts really are. She does not get it. She does not want to open her eyes to what's going on with Lindsay. Okay. It's just all these drugs had no effect on her. Postpartum had no effect on her. Bipolar, psychosis. None of this stuff is really happening, right? She's just a totally normal, vicious, cold-blooded killer. She was destined for this kind of life or event, all within an hour, completely normal life until this couple months after this latest child was born, right? But this is not anything but a cold-blooded killer, right?
Yes, but actually, I think it's clear that to harm her children was to kill her children.
Well, in the records where you say that she was so clear in presenting her symptoms to her doctors, she repeatedly was asked if she had any homicidal ideation, and she repeatedly said no, correct?
That's right. And she did in the initial parts of her treatment, but by late December and January.
You know, and a lot of people that want to kill themselves, their happiest day is the day they execute it. I've actually seen that. Okay, I've seen that. So these people are completely out of touch with mental health disorders. Okay. And then we had, this is the last witness total for the defense. They arrested around 11:50 this morning, and then they call not one, but they want to call several more psychiatrists and psychologists. So after we've already heard all of the ones that the state has called so far for people from the medical field, now they want to call more to rebut. So I think it's like a numbers game for them, and they're willing to spend any amount of money it takes, which I think is really, in the end, it's not going to matter how this case turns out, because I don't think if she goes to prison, Lindsay, I don't think the prison's going to be able to deal with her. They're going to wind up sending her to some kind of psych ward anyway. So I don't see any prison able to handle something of this magnitude. She's still in a psych ward. She cannot move around on her own feet. She's in a wheelchair, has that paralysis from the chest down. So let's go ahead here. Somebody said something about the cross on this guy. I don't want to listen to this prosecutor anymore. Okay, here we go.
Of medical certainty regarding criminal.
All right, so this guy,
complete the act.
He saw no clear. She may have had major depressive episode, but saw no clear evidence of mania, hypomania, or psychosis. Testified that Clancy recalled hearing a loud male voice telling her to kill the children. Said, "Go to God," as she's struggling, but that her mental illness did not prevent her from knowing right from wrong. This guy knows this for sure, right? All right, we didn't get all the way through this guy's cross, so let's see some of it here.
Act and what exactly to do?
No, she did not.
Of medical certainty regarding criminal responsibility.
My opinion is,
Yeah.
For a number of years.
How much did they pay you?
You knew that she obviously was married, right?
yes,
And her husband was Patrick, right?
yes,
You know how many years she was married, right?
I do.
How many?
I don't know it offhand, but I believe I understand or knew the date when they were married, which may have been 2013.
So the fact that she was married, you know, that did she want to have kids or did she find them to be a burden?
She very much wanted to have children. She described that was her lifelong interest.
Had one child Cora, right?
I can't hear you.
The first child was Cora, right?
Yes.
Did she have any delivery issues with Cora?
Not that I recall.
How about the second child? What was the second child's name?
Dawson.
How old was Dawson at the time of the incident, as we say.
I think he was around 4.
And did she have any issues with his delivery?
Do you mean the delivery or in the postpartum period?
I mean the delivery.
If I recall, I think she.
I'm sorry to hear that. Bad actors. Yeah, there's probably several people on here tonight that know somebody that committed suicide or was suicided by taking some bad pills that didn't
She had a
drink to them. And so you can probably relate to the same thing.
tear, which is called an episiotomy, and that was something she was unhappy about.
Sure. Did she have medication prescribed to her after Dawson?
Do you mean psychiatric medication?
Sure.
At some point, I think she was prescribed an antidepressant medication in that period.
What was it?
I think it was sertraline.
And do you know whether she took it?
She has told us that she did not.
And when she went home after having the baby, Dawson, she then came home to a little daughter, obviously Cora, had Dawson as an infant, correct?
Yes.
And was she living in a town, or where was she living when she had these two kids?
I think she was living in the same house in Duxbury.
See, Taliana, you're saying the same thing. Sorry about your uncle. Look at what tragedy that was. Took his life, and he was very calm and happy when you visited him days before. Yeah. And probably a week before that, he was acting like he wanted to kill himself, and then you think he's going to do better, and it's all because he's got a plan to kill himself. So that's the thing that these prosecutors just don't get. It's not a sign that she's totally of sound mind and only in a criminal state of mind.
She wasn't living in Weymouth, or?
She may have been. I'm sorry, I don't know.
That's all right. So at some point she moves to Duxbury. She's with her husband, and she goes back to work, does she?
Yes.
Look at this, April Watson. I lost my kiddo to this very mental health runaround. Wow. That's what I'm saying. This like really common nowadays. Especially in America. Way worse here than anywhere else.
You didn't make any, in your investigation, you didn't come across any information that she didn't want to go back to work because she was lazy or just didn't want to work, right?
No, I think she always wanted to work.
Did she have anxiety about going back to work after Callan, the third child?
After Callan?
Yeah, Callan. It's Callan, C-A-L-L-E.
Yes. Yes. She wanted to go back. As August and September arrived, she was hopeful to go back to work, but she became anxious about working. There were other factors too. She became anxious.
What factors yet? We'll get to the other factors. Why was she anxious about going back to work?
I was about to say,
Go ahead.
she was anxious about the well-being and nurturance of her children as she went back to work. One being that the baby was not taking a bottle. Another, that in that span between the point that her husband went back to work and she was expected to go back to work, it was overwhelming to have 3 young children that she was caring for all by herself. As time went on, she was ambivalent about hiring somebody to help, hiring a nanny, and that was another area of anxiety. So there were several areas of anxiety. And as we've discussed earlier today, anxiety was something that she had throughout her life.
I'm going to pull you in, okay? This is a cross-examination, sir. I gave you
All
a little
right,
room.
next, just ask the next question.
So when you say that she had anxiety, and the anxiety was about having her youngest child, Callan, correct?
Yes,
She was anxious about going back to work, correct?
yes,
But you also, as you were waxing eloquently, indicated that she was having anxiety about having a nanny.
yes.
What was she anxious about with the nanny?
In my understanding,
No, what is your understanding? Tell the jury what you investigated about her anxiety with the nanny.
so through my evaluation, what I understood was that there was ambivalence about having a nanny, that is to say, having somebody who helped. There was some degree of wanting to be able to handle the children on her own. The other part of it is some ambivalence about other people other than herself or perhaps her mother caring for the children. Because I know that my evaluation discerned that she felt very positively about her ability to take care of her children, but also some ambivalence about other people taking care of the children.
What time frame are we talking about? Summertime, fall?
The end of summer, late August, early September.
Isn't it true that in the summer, she and Patrick and the kids felt that they were on top of the world, having a great summer, right?
Well, that's what she said. That's her quote.
Okay. And then come the fall, towards the end of September, that's when she started to have symptoms of anxiety, right?
Yes.
Up to this point in your investigation, you have a young woman who was a nurse for a number of years, we assume from your investigation, a good reputation as a hard worker, right?
I can't hear you. I'm sorry.
Yeah, one of the things that you had mentioned is that she was, how about exercise? Did she like to do exercise?
Yes, in the past, exercise was her.
Yes, right? Yes?
How's this guy qualified to talk about Lindsay? Child and adolescent. What's this got to do with an adult? Postpartum, psychosis. Children nowadays are on a lot of psych meds too, but what do psych meds do for adults? He shouldn't even be testifying. But that's what they did. They shopped around and found this guy in Philadelphia. Now he gets to be covered in world true crime coverage.
Can you repeat the question?
Sure, I can repeat the question. I ask you, sir.
I'm objecting because he's interrupting the witness and not letting him answer
The
the question.
question called for yes or no answer. All right. And so go ahead.
Go ahead.
Can you state the question, please?
Sure. You mentioned in direct examination for the DA that she was like to do exercise, correct?
Yes.
And would you consider a person who is an exercise aficionado, especially a woman who, for example, runs, let's say, a 5K or a 5-mile road race within about a couple of weeks?
You better make sure you get that right. Don't say 5 miles when it's only 5K. Attorney Reddington.
Weeks after having a baby. Is that hyper-exercise? Is that hypomanic? Okay.
In of itself, it's not hypomanic, no.
How about if there's a string of exercise that is a little bit out of the norm, coupled with decluttering, removing personal property from the home, cleaning out the home, things of that nature? Would that be hypomanic in your opinion?
Not in and of itself, but are you talking, when you were asking about exercise, were you talking about in the period 2022 or 2020?
2022.
Okay.
After Callan. Okay? And I asked you about running the road race after Callan. Okay? You with me?
Yes, I am.
So would you suggest, sir, that that is something that one would at least anticipate, consider, or investigate as being this manic or hypomanic that you're talking about?
No.
So, by the way, one of the questions that you were asked, sir, is that when you got involved with investigating this case, do you recall that from the DA?
So,
do you recall that from the DA?
I just posted what I found on an AI search. Board certified forensic child and adolescent psychiatrist, and associate chair for quality and safety at Children's Hospital Philadelphia. He went to school up there at the Brigham one. I believe I found that. But and then it says here, prosecution rebuttal, expert witness in the high-profile murder trial of Lindsay Clancy. So why would a guy like this, ask yourself, why would a guy like this be willing to be paid many thousands of dollars to go from Philadelphia up to Massachusetts, Boston area, when you're not even qualified to talk about postpartum and adult bipolar and all these issues and psych meds and all that? Why is he there?
The term investigate, I'll if it's okay, I'll use the term evaluate.
When you got
but
appointed or retained
I mean, that's how much they're trying to pile on and throw ash and trash on the wall and hope something sticks.
by the
Right.
DA.
So, and your question is?
My question is, when were you retained by the district attorney, the prosecutors?
It was sometime in early 2025.
Early 2025. So like what, February, January?
I think the reach out had occurred in maybe December of 2024, and I think that the retention was early in 2025.
What's a reach out?
Well, the communication, the reaching out
From?
from the district attorney's office.
Okay. And then when you were asked that question, you indicated that you had to wait for motion to be filed or something with the court. Do you recall answering that question?
No.
Well, if I suggest to you, sir, it was in December of 2024 that a notice of lack of criminal responsibility was filed. Does that seem to fit with the reach out?
Oh,
Objection. Can we approach?
we hear the prosecution's whisper. Can we hear that again?
That a notice of lack of criminal responsibility was filed. Does that seem to fit with the reach out?
Objection. Can we approach?
Sure.
They don't like something there. I couldn't hear what they say. Can any of y'all hear that? All right, let's jump ahead. Here we go. Oh, she says, okay. She says, go sidebar. It's Resnick, whatever that means.
Hi, counsel.
Thank you, Judge. So,
Thanks for the
your understanding of the procedure is that a notice has to be given to the court that a person like Lindsay is raising the issue of criminal responsibility, correct?
I imagine that's the case, but I don't know the procedure here in Massachusetts in that regard.
Okay, you don't know the procedure?
The procedure for making notice?
Right.
No, I do not.
If I tell you, sir, that the notice is filed in December of 24, when was it that you had the reach out?
The first communication about the case was in, as I said a few minutes ago, in late 2024.
And do you recall the circumstances of that communication? DA call you, a letter, what?
No, I was contacted through a retention firm called Park Dietz and Associates.
Dietz?
Mm-hmm.
Park, he's a psychiatrist, isn't he?
It sounds like you know him.
I do know him. And actually, Park Dietz is a rather famous psychiatrist, is he not?
Yes.
He's testified in many cases, correct?
Yes, but
No, overrule.
I said Park Dietz and Associates. I didn't say Park Dietz himself.
Okay, well, you know Park Dietz, I imagine, right?
I do.
Yes. And you know that he's the guy that testified in the case and cited a Law and Order episode that didn't exist at the time he gave his opinion.
Sustained.
So is he still active?
Objection.
Sustained.
Is he a psychiatrist now?
Yes, he's a psychiatrist.
And on your letterhead, it says Park Dietz, D-I-E-T-Z, and Associates, forensic experts, right?
I can't see what you're looking at, but that's what the
Well,
letterhead basically
right
says.
from that, right?
I am.
Okay. And this is your curriculum vitae, right?
Yes.
Could this possibly be like in the Karen Reed case, that so-called expert that faked a degree from University of Alabama on his resume or CV? Or said he was enrolled and anticipated graduation on a certain date, and yet he hadn't been working on it in like 6 years or whatever it was.
In big letters up above, it says Park Dietz and Associates, right?
Yes.
Now, how does that work? You get a call from this retention group, Park Dietz, and then you get assigned a case?
When an attorney or a district attorney's office contacts them, they might think that it might be a case that I might want to be retained on.
Okay. Do they, to your knowledge, try to get someone that's familiar with that particular topic, or just anybody that has a random psychiatry degree?
Well, there are only certain people that they think of or consider, people that Dr. Dietz has thought of in terms of having a robust career and
You have a
background.
robust career?
I've been active as a teacher and as a clinician over about 20 years, and I've been a full professor at Penn and Jefferson and Georgetown.
So that's in your curriculum vitae, correct?
The 3 professor level appointments?
All of your stuff, the things you wrote, things that you're interested in, your fellowships, professorships, all that, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not tracking this Dietz guy. You're saying Leslie, a different Leslie, saying he lied on the stand during the Andrea Gates trial, causing it to get reversed on appeal. Okay.
And that's introduced into evidence by the DA, right?
Yes.
So the jury's going to...
How would that guy be associated with this? And then this prosecution are going to use them? I mean, that's like scraping bottom.
They have it to look at, right?
Okay. I didn't know that.
Let's just take a look at it now. Is it your understanding that when you are, and I mean you individually, not Park Dietz Associates, requested to look at and investigate into the lack of criminal responsibility of a individual charged with a crime, that you got to try to be independent?
Being independent is the expectation.
The answer, yes, you try to be independent?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Is it appropriate for you to evaluate an individual with another Park Dietz associate guy?
You're referring to Dr. Habron?
I am referring to Dr. Halbert. He's another one of the DA's witnesses in this case, right?
Correct.
And you know Halbert, right?
I had not met him until we jointly went to do the evaluation this April.
Okay, so let me show you this here. So thanks for those references. I'm going to remove this one. And add another shared screen here. This Google search, check this out. During Andrew Yates' 2002 capital murder trial, prosecution witness and forensic psychiatrist Dr. Park Dietz gave false testimony claiming a recent episode of the TV show Law and Order depicted a mother drowning her children and being found insane. No such episode existed, leading an appeals court to overturn her conviction. So he basically was testifying that the episode aired shortly before the murders, implying Yates may have copied the crime. Defense attorneys confirmed that with the show's producer that the episode was completely fabricated. The Texas Court of Appeals ruled that the false testimony likely influenced the jury's verdict, overturning her initial life sentence. And then look at that. In 2006, she was found not guilty by reason of insanity. So that guy, wow, he completely lied. And you wonder, like, I'm telling you guys, you wonder how can somebody lie about this kind of stuff? It's unbelievable. What would his motive be to lie? Why don't you do an independent opinion? Why would you have both of you there? I understand you can have a standing board, multiple experts on there that I guess they confer, but if you're being paid to do this, sorry. I screwed up.
2005 to the present, but not anymore?
Well, I'm not sure what date that CV is, but I firm called Park Dietz and Associates.
Dietz?
Mm-hmm.
He's a psychiatrist, isn't he?
It sounds like you know him.
I do know him.
I went back too far. Sorry.
I assume so, but I don't know.
Now, looking at your CV, you indicate that you're educated at Cornell, you got your medical degree, you had some fellowships. Do you have any particular interest in your practice, sir?
Yes.
And you have licensure in Delaware, right?
Yes.
Pennsylvania?
Yes.
District of Columbia?
Not at the moment.
Says 2005 to the present, but not anymore?
Well, I'm not sure what date that CV is, but I allowed my DC license to not be renewed.
Maryland?
Same, I let it not be renewed.
New York?
I actually renewed that recently.
Massachusetts?
No, I haven't had that since I left here.
South Carolina?
I haven't renewed that in many years.
Connecticut?
Same.
Virginia?
Same.
So what does that mean, that you have licensure? Does that mean you can be a psychiatrist in these states as long as it's active, or what does that mean?
Licensure means that one can act as a physician when your licensure is in effect, yes.
Okay. And as far as professional and scientific societies, you belong to the American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry, right?
Yes.
You belong to the American Academy of Juvenile and Family Court Judges, is that correct?
I don't belong to that group at the moment.
Well, did you? Is that on your resume?
Yes, there was a moment when I was the representative from the American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry and the American Psychiatric Association and also the American Academy of Psychiatry and Law, of all three, to the National Council of Juvenile and Family Court Judges. So at that point, I was a member of the National Council.
So I asked you about your interests or focus as a doctor. Would you agree, sir, that one of the things you put down is that you were involved in ad hoc reviewerships in the Journal of American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry, right?
It does say that, yes.
And then American Journal of Addictions?
Yes.
Pediatric?
It's the same thing with that Shannon Burgess and the Karen Reed case, right? It says that he tried to blame it on a non-current CV.
Quality and safety?
Yes.
That's dealing with little kids, right? Pediatrics?
Well, at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, we see patients up to 24.
Okay.
At Nemours, I believe up to 21.
So you also express interest in child psychiatry, this comes under academic responsibilities. Child psychiatry, right?
Yes.
You have been involved in the doctoring course for first-year medical students, right?
Yes.
Supervision of adult psychiatry residents, right?
Yes.
Clinical evaluation, Department of Psychiatry, dealing with children and adolescents, right?
I'm not sure that last one that you read, but
Number 8 on
no, but what does it say in its entirety?
ongoing clinical education of PGY3 residents, Department of Psychiatry, Georgetown University Hospital, Institute for Children and Adolescents.
Do you mean Regional Institute for Children and Adolescents?
Resume, I don't know what it means.
I'm just wanting to make sure I'm responding to your question.
Do you have it with you? I mean, you can look
The
at it.
Regional Institute for Children and Adolescents was a residential center in outside the Beltway, where I served for 3 years.
Okay, the focus nevertheless is on children and adolescents, right?
Not at that time. What you mean when I was at Georgetown?
I'm just looking at your resume.
Okay.
How about lecture of patient safety and quality improvement in child and adolescent mental health? That something that you were involved with as a lecturer, sir?
Yes, about
Okay.
patient safety and quality. Yes.
Answer is yes.
Yes.
Just make it quick. You were a lecturer on a morass returns, adolescent cannabis, doubles lettuce, and other hallucinogen use, dealing with what, pediatrics, kids?
Yes.
Okay. You also did under lectures by invitation that you've been involved with lecturing on wither psychosis in adolescents, right?
That was the title of a paper I gave. Yes.
So the answer is yes, right?
The answer is I gave that paper. Yes.
Okay. Adolescents accused of murder or manslaughter, right?
Yes.
Okay. Wither psychosis, adolescent killers, a couple of years later, again, maybe an update, right?
Right.
Divorce for the clinician, right?
Right.
Divorce legal process and medical, social, and psychiatric sequelae, right?
Right.
Killer adolescents, drugs, school, and the courts, right?
Right.
Jumping ahead, 2014, for example, you had the morass returns, adolescent cannabis and other hallucinogens, right?
I imagine, yes. I don't know exactly which one you're looking at, but that's the title of a lecture that I was giving.
Childhood development and psychopathology, right? Is an interest, right?
It is an interest, yes.
Childhood development, again, in psychopathology, lecture to the United States Department of Justice, right?
Yes.
Lecturing to the United States Department of Justice, Department of Immigration, right?
Yes.
Cognitive bias think tank is another one of the lectures that you gave. Is that correct?
Well, it was a committee or a task force that I co-led about the prospect of diagnostic error when people have cognitive biases.
And what's a cognitive bias? Just curious.
So when you think about diagnoses, there's always a possibility that an individual is sort of guided to one diagnosis or another based on various forms of preconceptions or biases. So a major part of this concept of patient safety is to prevent misdiagnosis. And there are a lot of techniques that are used in medicine and in this case in pediatric hospitals and also in psychiatry to try to make sure that the users or the diagnosticians' biases don't creep into making the wrong diagnosis.
Research publications, sir, dealing with neuropsychiatric systemic lupus, erythematosus age, and the neurodevelopment model. That's one of your research publications, right?
Yes.
Dealing with.
Yeah, I think the cross, he's showing that he's done a lot of different stuff, but so you may wonder, well, gosh, this guy sounds like he's really credentialed, he's got a great resume, doing all these things. But, the flip side of it is, I think that he's showing that none of this has to do with adults of Lindsay's age. So he has no qualifications, really. If he doesn't have any qualifications, what is he doing there? And one of the things I'm always leery of is somebody has all these things that they do that's beyond treating patients. If you have to see anybody in the medical field, and what they're doing most of the time is publishing and going to conferences, speaking, and they don't have as much actual hands-on doing the actual care of patients, whether it's surgery, whatever treatments could be involved for whatever specialty. They're not actually seeing as many patients. You can, because think about it, you can't see patients if you're out traveling all the time, speaking and doing talks on things that you have newfound ways of doing stuff.
Psychiatric classification from the ancients to DSM-4, Psychiatric Clinics of North America, right?
Yes.
Alcohol abuse is another research that you did?
I've written or edited several textbooks on substance use disorders. Yes.
Okay. So in addition to child and adolescent aspects of psychiatry, you're also interested in focusing in on alcohol abuse, substance-related disorders, alcohol abuse disorders, addictive disorders, treatment of addictive disorders, right?
Those are some of the areas of interest, yes.
Novel risk factors for central line associated bloodstream infections in critically ill children, right?
Yes.
And it goes on and on with a lot of...
So the jury's got to be sitting there thinking, what's this guy and all of his interaction with children psychology have anything to do with this case?
Your focus is on children, minors, probate court, correct?
I don't know about probate court, but...
Well, you've had occasion to do evaluations for probate court, haven't you?
You'd have to remind me. There was a period when I was the physician leader of the state of Maryland's Office of Forensic Services.
Right.
So
that's what you said on direct, so that's why I'm asking it. But how about the new tools in the toolbox? Proactive prevention of CLABS, 1 in patients with behavioral health and concerns. What does that mean?
Well, CLABSI, central line associated bloodstream infections, are something that is a major concern of all hospitals around the country, and preventing them from happening is not only the work of cleaning the apparatus that touches patients, but also we learned that when patients have psychiatric problems, they actually are at a greater risk of developing a central line associated bloodstream infection, which is a significant complication of being in the hospital. So I started that work when I was at Georgetown, when I was an adult, mainly focused on adults, and carried it on when I was at Children's Hospital Philadelphia and at Nemours in terms of the pediatric risks for CLABSI.
Okay. How about clinical manual of adolescent substance abuse disorder? That's another one of your chapters, right? Book?
I don't think I wrote a book about adolescent substance use.
Number 29, MAC-AH Clinical Manual of Adolescent Substance Abuse Treatment, Journal of Psychiatric Practice.
Yeah, that was a chapter, not a book. But yes.
Okay, but nevertheless, your focus and your interest is on adolescents that like to smoke weed and drink, right?
No.
Okay. Would you agree, sir, that you were interested in the American Psychiatric Press textbook you wrote for substance abuse treatment, right?
Yes.
All right. And think like a psychiatrist, but always a doctor, be a doctor, web, drugstore, perils, drugs, alcohol, bloodstream infections in children's hospital, focusing on that, right? Where in here does it say that you ever came within breathing distance of a pregnant woman and your practice and your interest in your writings?
Wow, that is a great point there. Breathing distance of a pregnant female.
So I remember being at the Brigham as a resident and
how long ago
going
was that?
to
Brigham. That's the one in Boston area there that Lindsay at one time was trying to get help from. So now he's associated with that one as well.
How long ago was that?
Yeah, give us a year.
Well, you asked me when. So
Yeah,
I'm starting.
when?
That was the memory I have for that particular situation was 2001.
2001, so 25 years ago.
Right. And
What did
so
you do?
since then, I went to the Medical University of South Carolina, and then I went to Georgetown, and all that period up until 2015, I was doing general psychiatry work with areas of focus in peds or in addictions, but also with forensics as an area. I see myself as somebody who's generalist who happens to have a couple of areas of focus. In 2015, I did move from that generalist model to, when I left Georgetown, I moved to the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia and the University of Pennsylvania. And in those years, since then, I've been working in pediatric hospitals, where at CHOP, Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, the age is up to 24, and at Nemours, it's up to 21. So that is the overall area of adult and child psychiatry that I've been working in. Throughout the years at Georgetown,
Okay.
I would like to answer because I have more to tell you.
Let him finish the answer. Go ahead.
So at Georgetown, certainly that was all adult, and Georgetown has its own labor and delivery unit. And so that was plenty of engagement with women who were pregnant or who had just given birth. And then at both Children's Hospital of Philadelphia and at Nemours, there are these special units that have been designed for the last several years of high-risk pregnancy units. So actually at CHOP, one of my first roles there was to develop the psychiatry services coverage of the high-risk maternity unit there called the Special Delivery Unit. And I was the co-leader and then the leader of the consultation service at CHOP. And so I led the group of adult and child psychiatrists to tend to the psychiatric needs of that unit. Recently at Nemours, the same unit was built. And so, yes, in these pediatric hospitals, there actually are units of women who are about to have birth, who have just had birth.
Well, I'm sure in these pediatric hospitals, there are women about to have birth and have had birth. And I'm sure that there are competent doctors that treat them, correct?
I would agree with you.
How about you? How many women with postpartum psychosis have you treated?
Roughly 10 would be my estimate.
Over what period of time?
Over the period since 2001.
And when you would treat these women, would you be involved in, for example, testing them for their mental health?
Well, usually the teaching has been that what was called postpartum psychosis is actually a form of bipolar disorder. So what is important is to say, let's do a full evaluation of the individual's symptoms and signs, and then treat them and engage in treatment. And usually that's going to be a form of bipolar disorder treatment. That's the teaching. That is the general perspective.
So with your wealth of knowledge on women that are pregnant and suffering from postpartum psychosis, do you know whether or not Lindsay was ever diagnosed with postpartum depression?
I believe that the various notes from the clinicians over the year of 2022 to 2023 utilized the term unspecified mood disorder.
Right. How about postpartum depression?
I don't think that appellation was used.
Okay. So was she ever administered EPDS?
No.
You mean the Edinburgh?
Right.
Yeah. Was she ever administered that?
I don't know if she was or wasn't. I don't remember.
Isn't that something you're in here testifying about this case? Wouldn't that be important to know that she was almost off the chart on the Edinburgh scale for postnatal depression?
Well, I have said that she had depression.
Well, postnatal depression for a woman who's pregnant or had a baby recently is a heck of a lot different than some guy who's just depressed about his job, right?
I don't understand your question.
Well, do you know what her readings were on the Edinburgh test?
Not to my memory at the moment, no.
Why not? You read the medical records, didn't you?
I mean, if you would like to show me, I'd be
I don't
happy
want to show you
review it.
anything. I'm asking you as a testifying witness for this jury, did you look at her medical records?
I did.
And the medical records pertain to her being a person that just had a baby, right?
I'm not sure that which records you're talking about, but can I finish? Can I finish? Can I?
I'm not going to finish. 2022, obviously, because we already talked about the summer, she was fine. When did she see Tufts?
She started to see Dr. Tufts in 2022.
When?
I believe it was, well, she went to Dr. Tufts in September, and it was in October that she started taking the medication that Dr. Tufts had prescribed.
Okay, and that was for what?
You mean which medication, or what was the purpose?
Medication.
Sertraline.
And otherwise known as?
Zoloft.
And she took it after a while, is that correct? Is that what you said?
A few weeks, yes.
And the reason she didn't take it was what?
Time, as my evaluation.
Hold on for a
Hold on a
second.
second. Hold on a second, Doc.
Wow.
Sorry. All right, let's go ahead. Do you want me to re-ask that question?
I'm okay.
Okay.
So over time, Ms. Clancy has avoided taking medications.
She's what?
Avoided taking medications.
Says who?
The description she gave me.
She told you that?
My awareness from my evaluation is that she resists taking medications. And for example,
No. Tell me what you mean by she resists taking medications.
there are individuals in this world who do not want to take medications. And I think she described that she is one of them.
You know, she saw Dr. Tufts because she apparently was anxious, right?
Yes.
Prior to that, other than having anxiety about public speaking as a nurse in nursing school, and after she had one of her children, she didn't have any psychiatric history of medications, right?
She had not taken medications, but she had had a lifelong degree of anxiety. It hadn't been at the level of disorder, but she had
Lifelong.
yes.
Okay. How about in grammar school, high school, college? Did she have difficulty that she was anxious?
So what I was saying is that anxiety can drive people, but she had a lot of anxiety and she was hardworking, and the anxiety helped her to be hardworking. But when it comes to medications,
Hold on. Mr. Reddington, go ahead. Doctor, finish the question.
but when it comes to medications, she described that she didn't want to take medications. And an example was the time that after the birth of her second child, that sertraline had been prescribed, but she chose to get through her anxiety and depression by exercising. And that is something that people do. But it also highlights that in this case, she didn't want to be taking medications. And I think that we also understand that in the fall of 2022.
All right. At this point, I'm going to stop. Next question.
My question was, you said that she had a lifelong resistance to taking medication. That's what you said, right?
Yes.
Yes? Okay.
Yes.
Then I asked you, grammar school, high school, college, did she have any records, any witnesses, any documents that she had a resistance to taking medication?
Only your description to me.
She didn't tell you that she was resistant to medication in grammar school and high school and college? What are you making this up?
Objection.
Yeah, sustain. Next question.
She didn't tell you that.
I understand her to have told me that generally she did not want to be taking medications. She didn't necessarily specify in grammar school, but that is her basic.
College.
Yes, I think that her description was as a adolescent and as a young adult, she was not interested in taking medications.
You really have that written down somewhere?
I'm happy to be proven wrong, but I believe that that's what I understand it to be.
You believe that's what it is, you don't know whether you have it written down somewhere, right?
Can I refer to my
Read the
report?
whole report, I don't care. Because it's not there.
Yeah. That's the court report. Yeah. Boy, she's really got a bad cough. I'm surprised the judge isn't taking a recess here, as many recesses as they take.
Well, on page 8, what I had written was Ms. Clancy's reluctance to take medication generally was accompanied by her concern for medications entering her breast milk. So the general.
Breast milk, she's pregnant. Come on. That's the only time that she indicates that she did not want to take, except for benzos, medication because she was breastfeeding, right?
I don't agree. I'm happy to be proven wrong, But my understanding is that she described that she generally did not want to take medication,
All right.
benzodiazepines included.
Let's not guess, all right? Let's look at Dr. Mack's report, okay? Medication history. During the period before January 24, 23, she was taking several medications, and that would be Tufts and Gelada and all the rest of them, right?
Okay.
Is that right?
I didn't exactly hear your question. I'm sorry. Can you repeat it?
You said in your report, defendant was taking several medications that had been prescribed for her, right?
In the fall and December of 2022, yes.
So it's real easy. It's Tufts and Gelada that were prescribing these meds, right?
They were among the prescribers, yes.
All right. And her reluctance to take medication was accompanied by her concern for medications entering her what?
I believe it says breast milk.
Breast milk. Okay. So other than her concerns as a mother about her breast milk and having these drugs get into an infant's body, when else did she tell you that she was resistant, as you just told this jury, to taking medication? Like she's somebody who doesn't want to take the medication, doesn't care to take the medication. Where is it?
Overall.
Well, I didn't say that she didn't care.
Okay, how about she was resistant?
My recollection, and I'm happy to, if you would like me to spend time finding it.
Prove you're
I'd be
wrong,
happy
I
to.
know.
What?
Prove you're wrong. It's not in your report though, is it?
Okay.
Okay, we'll leave it at that. Now, you had mentioned, sir, I believe that the DSM is something that you all use in your diagnoses of people, right?
Yes.
And one of the things that you are here to testify about would be postpartum issues, postpartum psychosis, postpartum depression, right?
Are you referring to postpartum psychosis, the disorder, the proposed disorder, or as a symptom?
Well, when you come in here as an expert, hired by the DA to tell this jury that this woman was not suffering from postpartum psychosis, and you in your testimony refer to the fact that you use the DSM to guide you, if that's the right word, in your diagnoses, would you agree with me that that's a fair statement?
That the DSM is the standard for making diagnoses? Yes.
Right. It's not a very good standard, though, is it?
Well, it is the standard.
It is the standard. How about, are there other standards, sir, that, like, for example, World Health Organization, International Disease Control, IDC, have you ever heard of them?
Yes.
Okay. Does the IDC, what does that stand for?
The ICD.
What does that stand for?
The International Classification of Disease.
Does that classify postpartum psychosis?
I think it actually does not.
Does it classify, you think, are you sure?
My recollection is that it does not.
Okay. How about postpartum depression? Does the international category indicate that?
I'm not sure. We in the United States.
No.
use the
I'm
DSM.
asking about the other, the ICD or whatever it is.
I don't know.
Okay, that's good enough. This here is what you're talking about, the DSM though, right? 5TR, text revision, right?
Yes.
And you're talking about the fact that at some point in DSM-6, there it appears as though postpartum depression, postpartum psychosis will be added into the DSM-6. Is that correct?
Who said that?
I'm asking you if that's what you mean when you told the jury about it possibly being put into the next edition.
There is a syndrome that's been proposed called postpartum psychosis. So I would differentiate that from the idea that the person of psychosis in a postpartum period. The proposed syndrome of postpartum psychosis has not been included, and I am not aware that it is going to be included, although I understand there are calls for that. I would also say actually the movement for DSM-6 is not necessarily active at this point, but I would highlight again, because I wrote my college history thesis on the history of the DSMs.
What was it, DSM 1, 2, 3 back then?
Well, there's been a classification made by the American Medical Association going back to the end of the 19th century. DSM-1 was in 1952, DSM-2 was 1968, DSM-3 was 1980. The major change in 1980 was to fall in, as I discussed earlier, the descriptive model for diagnoses. And that is to say that since DSM-3, diagnostic groups are grouped, or disorders are grouped by what you see, what symptoms we are seeing, not by what we assume is the cause of the illness, and not by any theories about how the illness works. So since DSM-4 in 1994, as a part of making DSM-4, a literature review was completed by Dr. Ellen Frank, which indicated a roadmap for what to include in terms of postpartum designations. And since then, there's been what's called a specifier. So if you highlight depression, you can add a specifier to say when this depression occurred. The limit is that it's a 4-week limit. So under the rules of DSM, after 4 weeks, you wouldn't necessarily, you wouldn't call it postpartum. Postpartum psychosis, and here I'm referring mainly to literature, including a review in biological psychiatry in the last 12 months, is a proposal that there is a type of bipolar disorder called postpartum psychosis, where you can have mania or bipolar attributes, you can have depression, you can have delirium. And so when you think about the rules and the guidelines that have been in place since 1980 for revisions of the DSM, they look for, can this category be sufficiently separated from other categories? And does it help treatment? And over time, even though there have been calls, well, there have been hundreds of diagnoses that have been proposed or requested to be in the DSMs, very few new diagnoses get inserted. And right now, that is the situation for the syndrome called postpartum psychosis, that it is not something that has been approved. And I know there are people who are calling for it, but in the current time.
Okay.
Okay. Next question.
Okay.
Please.
Thank you.
Yeah, this guy,
Are you aware, sir, that
I don't like a witness to ramble like that if he's a prosecution witness, if I'm on the defense side, because this is, I don't think the jury's liking him, and I don't think they really believe what he's saying. I don't think he's credible and knowledgeable on this. But letting somebody ramble like that, I think this issue about he's working for someone that testified in the Andrea Yates case that was overturned because of a bogus testimony, some false testimony. So that's it's like a Shannon Burgess type of thing. Burgess was different, but it's a big deal to think this guy's associated with that. He's not done anything wrong like Park Dietz has, but he's associated with him. So why would he associate with somebody like that was involved in another child murder case, a woman in Texas here murdering her children, and then this guy is also on a similar case and he's affiliated with this guy. It's just like there's so many eerie coincidences.
postpartum psychosis and postpartum depression are pretty much virtually not even mentioned in your DSM-5 TR?
I wouldn't agree with that. I was about to say.
So you would not agree with it, right?
I was about to get to that.
I'm sure you were, but you would not agree with it, right? Is that correct?
I don't have a basis to say that.
Okay. So looking at, and this is 1,050 pages of people putting together like a cookbook, fair to say, right?
No, I wouldn't call it a cookbook.
No? Would you agree, sir, that postpartum is referred to, page 147, in sex and gender-related diagnostic issues? Would you agree with that, sir?
Is that the introductory chapter?
This is the chapter, sir, that is pertinent to bipolar disorder. You're familiar with it.
Okay, so it's the bipolar chapter.
And referencing 147, sex and gender-related diagnostic issues. You're familiar with that, I imagine, right?
That's a subset. I mean, that's a portion of the chapter, I imagine, that describes.
Right, it's a paragraph.
issues. Okay.
It's a paragraph. Out of 1,000 pages, it's a paragraph.
What's your question?
Women may be more likely to experience rapid cycling and mixed states and to have patterns of comorbidity that differ from those of men, including higher rates of lifetime eating disorders. Come on. This is what they talk about with postpartum psychosis and postpartum depression, eating disorders, and the difference between women and men?
Is that your question? I'm not sure I understand your
Now
question.
you answer it, yeah.
What's your question?
Postpartum disorders, sir, the difference between women and men, and they make reference to eating disorders?
Well, I think the section header, if you don't mind reading it again, was aspects about gender. And so in that section, I imagine they're describing it. I didn't write the DSM, so I'm not here to represent it.
Okay,
I could just tell you about it.
all right. Okay, right here, sex and gender-related diagnostic issues, right? Would you agree that's under the bipolar and related disorder section?
Yeah.
The DSM, okay. Page 147 talks about women more likely to experience rapid cycling and mixed states and have patterns of comorbidity that differ from those of men, including higher rates of lifetime eating disorders, right? Did I read that right? That's all right. Okay. And then it goes on for the rest of the paragraph that women with bipolar 1, read along, or 2 disorder are more likely to experience depressive symptoms than are men. Did I read that right? That they, meaning women, apparently have a higher lifetime risk of alcohol use disorder than men. Really? Did I read that right?
Yes.
And that they also, and much greater likelihood of alcohol misuse disorder than women in the general population. Some women with bipolar disorder experience exacerbation of.
Look at how he's looking at Attorney Reddington, this Dr. Mack. That's not a good look. He should be looking down at what this attorney's looking at. He's looking at him like, you know what? I'm not even listening to what you're saying. It's just there's something defiance related that this look is doing. So I think this is sort of like this cross going on too long. I think he's made his points. I mean, the main points I think is that he could have taken from this on cross, just go in and get the doctor, show that his CV's not updated, show that he's got states on there that he's still not licensed in, and why doesn't he have an updated CV? That's a big deal. He can make a big deal about that. That if he wouldn't be calling him out on this, he didn't volunteer it on his own on direct. That's how you really attack this guy. And then he's affiliated, got referred out from this Park Dietz Association, so he didn't do his homework to find out if this association has any type of things to bring up on cross-examination. So I think that, and then he doesn't have experience working with the folks that are adults. So I think this hit on those things and just start saying, I don't even need to spend a lot of time crossing this guy because he's got nothing to bring to the table that's credible. Yeah, Jennifer Rank saying mental health's not really well understood. Praying some good comes out of this tragedy is very sad. Yeah, that's so true.
Mood symptoms during their premenstrual time period. Right?
It's not that, yeah.
Yeah. And that this has been associated with a worse course of illness. Many women with bipolar disorder also report severe emotional disturbances during perimenopause when estrogen levels are decreasing. Did I read that right?
Sorry.
Right, because
It does say that. Yeah.
okay. And that there does not appear to be an increased risk of mood episodes in pregnant women with bipolar disorder, except for those who discontinue medications for pregnancy, right? Is that what it says that in the DSM?
Yes,
Right.
I know.
So what does that tell you in 25 words or less, sir, when that sentence where it talks about there does not appear to be an increased risk of mood episodes in pregnant women with bipolar disorder, except for those who discontinue medication for pregnancy. What does that mean?
What it means is when thinking about women who have bipolar disorder who are pregnant, the risk of having either a manic episode or a hypomanic episode or a depressive episode generally stays stable compared to when the person is not pregnant, except in people who do not take medications for bipolar during the pregnancy.
And then it goes on to read, the specifier with peripartum onset should be used for mood episodes that begin during pregnancy or within 4 weeks of delivery. Is that the 4-week cutoff that you're telling the jury about?
That's the 4-week cutoff. That's on that specifier, the peripartum specifier. Yes.
When was this last amended? 1958?
You're talking about a 4-week number?
Yeah.
That was created in DSM-4 in 1994.
And how about the World Health Organization? What's their cutoff using that term?
I don't know. I can tell you that the proponents of postpartum psychosis illness utilize, I believe, 12 weeks, maybe 6 weeks, but not more than 12.
How about the, what is it, IDC, ICD?
The World Health Organization's international classification.
If I tell you it's a year, would that mean anything to you? It's not 6, maybe 12, it's a year?
Does it mean anything to me?
Yeah, does it mean anything to you?
With regard to what?
It's a year. You're talking about 4 weeks, but they're referring to a year.
Well, the distinction between the ICD and the DSM is substantial. The DSM.
All right. Mr. Reddington, why don't you ask a question?
Thank you. So would you agree with me, sir, that the way that women are treated postpartum, after having babies, prior to having babies in Europe is a heck of a lot different than we treat women here, right?
Objection.
Sustained.
So that paragraph that we just went through, we're talking about sex and gender-related diagnostic issues, right?
Yes.
They mentioned the words postpartum, period. They mentioned, I don't mean period like the end of the sentence, I mean postpartum, period. They mentioned that, right?
Yes.
And I read that correct. That's a paragraph, right?
Yes.
And then out of the 1,050 pages, we can then go to another, page 156, sex and gender-related diagnostic issues. And it makes reference to the gender ratio for bipolar 1 disorder, right?
Okay.
Would you agree that the gender ratio for bipolar 1 disorder is equal?
I think that with the points I was making about this guy, if you hit him on those strong points, you can move off him and not get bogged down, because one of the things that you can do as a technique is if you're making the point this guy doesn't have any background in this area, then you don't want to spend so much time on him, because the more time you spend on him, the more it looks like he maybe is an expert in this area. And that's why you got to try to draw it out of him to try to rebut what he brought out on direct. But if you just bring out those strong points that this guy has no business being in the courtroom, then you don't need to get in all this stuff about the DSM and all that. That's probably the technique I would have used if I was in Reddington's shoes here. But I think he gets the point done, though. This guy's been thoroughly impeached, and so he's not really seeing a lot of patients. He's looking like he wants to build his CV, but yet then a lot of stuff's dropping off, like Stacy's licensed in. So not such a clean kill here, but I think he shows desperation by the state with this so-called expert.
Between women and men?
Yes.
And does it then go on and say that bipolar 2 disorder are mixed, differing by type or sample? There is little or no evidence of bipolar gender difference in the general population. And some, but not all, clinical examples suggest that bipolar 2 disorder is more common in women than in men. Is that right?
It may be. As I was,
Because you want to look at it, or it may be because they might be wrong.
well, women have depression more than men, unfortunately. And so that is something that it gets reflected when it comes to bipolar type 2.
So patterns of illness and comorbidity, however, differ by sex, with females being more likely than males to report hypomania. Does that sound right?
It sounds right.
And that women would have mixed depressive features and a rapid cycling course. Correct?
That sounds right.
And childbirth may be a trigger for the hypomanic episode, which can occur in 10 to 20% of females. In non-clinical populations, most typically in the early postpartum period. Does that sound right to you?
It sounds, I mean, you're reading it, so I agree.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. And there's a big difference between DSM and WHO, right?
I don't know the WHO's 12 months, what it refers to. When it comes to the proposed postpartum psychosis birth,
I'm done with this guy.
and actually one of the objections that group has.
So once again, you have Massachusetts, the prosecution calling what they think is experts to help their case are actually hurting their case. Yeah, they're just looking weak here. Prosecution's looking weak. You want to look strong. I don't think you want to resort to these kind of experts on the prosecution side. They're focused on strict timelines. There's a bell curve, and she may fall out of the normal range for onset. Bell curves are well known in medicine. They are outliers, and is clearly an outlier. Says Jennifer Rank. So anyway, yeah, he made his point. I agree. You can check this guy off as doing any damage. It just shows that this whole thing about mental health and treatment it's really hit and miss. It's really hit and miss, and you can really get messed up worse. I mean, that's something that I knew well before the trial. You can really get messed up worse getting put on some of these medicines. And you can go in some kind of rage mode, right? So anyway, let's see. Let me go back to okay, so we got two more prosecution rebuttal witnesses before closing arguments, likely Monday or Tuesday. There's Dr. Gregory Sadhoff and a forensic psychiatrist and FBI psychiatric consultant, and Dr. Kirk Hellbrun, forensic psychologist at Drexel University. So let's see, do they have more expertise in what the defense has brought? So I'll cover this some more in the coming days. So y'all have a safe weekend. It's already Saturday morning here in Texas. So thanks for following this case. A lot of people are angry for those that support this defendant. Some ladies are showing up in pink to support her outside the courthouse by apparently the hundreds, and some people are offended by that. But keep in mind, this is a legal case, and there's a lot of medical stuff intertwined with it, and there's a lot of emotions tied in with it. And we know that it's obvious that Lindsay Clancy was struggling mentally with a lot of different stuff swirling around. So people making this sound like she was just a cold-blooded killer. I mean, where do you come up with that? Where do you come up with that? That she was just some mean, evil, vicious person to kill her kids. The more vicious and evil and crazy it sounding it is, to me that this lends itself to more of this being a psychosis combined with other issues involving these psych meds. So I think the prosecution is trying to say, oh, look at this. She had to have held the exercise bands around her neck, so that proves that she was coherently and viciously trying to kill her kids, right? Like she was not mentally deranged doing it. I think it's the opposite. I think the more cruel and vicious it is, that can lend itself more to how deranged she was from the psychosis. So I think the prosecution just doesn't really understand mental illness and all the different things from hormones to the postpartum depression, and then you have the wrong people thrown in the wrong kind of medicine, and this is what can happen. So that's the good thing about this, as somebody said, is that this is waking people up. And if you guys know somebody that ever has this kind of situation as well, you need to be on guard, because you know what, maybe this could turn into a murder suicide kind of deal. So anyway, we need to have some full critical view of the facts of this case. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and sign off. You guys have a safe weekend. I may jump back on Sunday night. There's more cases going on here. I've not covered anything about the Jared Brightigan case where he was murdered in Florida, and I intended to do that, but just have not had the time this week. But more to follow. So thanks for pursuing justice, and maybe I'll see you Sunday night. Take care.